This is the Daytona Race of Champions, an annual event for only the very fastest drivers. And I've been invited by Daytona to see how I can do against the very best drivers they have to offer. Now, as some of you will know, I'm quite familiar with events named Race of Champions, as I beat all the Formula 1 drivers to win the Skills Challenge at the 2015 Race of Champions in London, and I also won K-Rock, or the Kart Race of Champions, at Buckmore Park a handful of years ago. But this is my first time competing in Daytona's version, in which they take the champions of all their in-house series and pit them against one another in one intense day of racing action. Now, thankfully, the track actually looks dry despite the freezing cold temperatures. Checking out the forecast on the way to the circuit this morning, it is due to snow today, but hopefully it holds off long enough for us to get some decent racing in beforehand. Now, while I do know this track pretty well, I hadn't driven it in the dry in around a year, and I certainly hadn't driven it in icy conditions for many years. And unlike many of my competitors who race at this circuit multiple times per week, this was just my third visit in the last 12 months. So it was important to do a track walk and really understand where the grip was likely to be in Heat 1. So anyone who saw the last video of me here racing with Callum will see that this is different. I was most of the kart wide here. Now the difference is, in the dry, I won't want to be over there. I won't need to go that wide. And actually, that's probably the dampest corner we've gone through so far. And then we've got this long downhill run into my favourite part of the track. I love the high-speed corners. You really pick up some speed down here in a D-Max, and it gets narrow and tight down the bottom. Little damp here, for sure. This is slippery underfoot, so using this curb will be really key. The one place you want maximum grip is as you brake into this tight corner at the bottom of the hill before the long back straight, and this is the dampest we've seen so far. As you get into the turning point, it gets dry again, so you might be rescued, just maybe need slightly earlier braking through there. So with the track walk done, it was time to set some targets for the day, and I decided to hedge my bets as a reflection of the unpredictable nature of a day of sprint racing. Don't really want to set aims right now, but I can always cut this out if I don't achieve them. So the aim is top 10. The guys here are amazing. The aim is top 5. The aim is P1. The aim is to beat Sebastian Musica.
I'm going to be mid-pack because there's too many good drivers here, honestly.
That's not very encouraging for me since he was the fastest in the duos race a year ago. So, right, let's go do some practice. Now, we only had a very short practice session before the first heat, but I could tell from Daytona's new driver information display that my pace was competitive because it was showing P2 for most of the session. But even with that strong pace, race 1 was going to be very tough because I was starting down in 13th position and had a lot of karts to overtake if I wanted to start my day with a decent haul of points. So I'd made it through the first few corners and gained a couple of positions, but as with any D-Max sprint race, there was going to be loads more action in these opening couple of laps. It was clear everyone was still finding their feet and learning that although it didn't look very different, the inside line was definitely the grippiest, whilst the outside was a little bit damp and slightly icy. By the end of the opening lap, I'd managed to claw forward by 6 positions, but any additional places were going to be extremely hard to come by, as I was about to find out over the course of the next lap. So after the opening couple of laps, I'd managed to work my way up to 6th position, which was really higher than I expected at this point. And as you can see, the karts ahead have completely escaped. They're a long way ahead of us at this point. So my thought process right now is just about consolidating this position and trying not to drop back any further than this. However, there's a driver behind me who is definitely quicker than me at this phase of the race, and there's a kart ahead that we do have a chance of catching back up with. So I need to make the decision of whether to fight and try and defend from the kart behind, or whether to use them to help me catch up to the next kart. And after a lap of defending from Archie Bullard in the 114 kart, I decide it's actually going to be better for my race to try and follow him up to the next kart. And with this being a short sprint race, there's not a lot of time to do that. So we set off in pursuit of the kart in 5th place. And 2 laps later, with me hanging on in Archie's slipstream, we've nearly caught them up. But with just 1 lap remaining, did we have enough time to catch and pass Ross Sandwell in the 119 kart and finish 1 extra crucial position higher? Thankfully, the answer was yes, and that meant that my decision to stop fighting Archie earlier in the race was the right one. So as I crossed the line in 6th place, I was happy I'd maximised my point score for the first heat.
Good race. Yeah, I didn't talk very much, but P6 from 13, that's an okay start. We had a really good kart. If we had this kind of kart for the rest of the day, we'd be actually very competitive. Let's see what they're like. This one picked up well. So barring any penalties from the lap 1 carnage, I think we looked alright.
But unfortunately, unbeknownst to me, I was about to receive a 3-place penalty for something completely different. Now, the rules for starting procedures vary depending on which series you're racing in, but at Daytona events there's a few criteria you have to meet in order for your start to be deemed legal. The first of which is you're not allowed to begin racing until the lights go green. Effectively, you're not allowed to accelerate hard until you see the green light. Next, you also have to stay in formation, and by that I mean you can't overtake the karts ahead of you. If you're on row 2, you can't overtake the karts on row 1. And the third thing you need to do is leave a gap to the kart in front as you cross the start line. You're not allowed to load the karts in front of you and give your row an unfair advantage at the start. So with those things in mind, let's analyse my start and see what went wrong. Now I'm trying to maintain this exact gap to the kart in front of me, but 114 really slows down in the middle of the last corner, and I have to brake to avoid going into the back of him twice. There's then this huge gap to the next row of karts as the lights turn green, but when they do turn green, I've managed to brake again and create that gap to the 114 kart once again. And now with the green light having been displayed for several seconds, I accelerate in a straight line, being careful to leave a gap to the 114 kart ahead of me as we cross the start line. And as far as I was concerned, it was just a completely normal start. But with my post-race appeal rejected, there was nothing I could do but get on with the second race and try and get the best result possible to see if we could still get into the A final for the big race at the end of the day. Now, one thing I'd noticed during my post-race weigh-in was that I was significantly over the minimum weight limit when running at the recommended 82.5 kilos driver weight. So it was time to start stripping some lead off my weighted seat to get closer to the minimum legal weight.
2.5 we'll take off. Let's do that, and then we'll reassess after the next one.
And so it was time for race 2, and this time I was starting where I'd finished on the road in the previous race, in 6th position.
So after some controversy following race 1, we were dropped to 8th place. I don't agree with it, but I also can't change it. So let's see how we can do in this one. We're back in the same car, I think, 118. So unless something's changed between the first race and now, this was good. Okay, so let's just have a super safe start. We're going to need to leave a really big gap and just hope the karts in front don't all slow down into the first corner. Let's try and salvage something, because right now we're looking like we're not going to make the A final.
So this time, just to be on the safe side, I left an enormous gap to the kart in front of me and the lights went green. And I got a pretty good start, but I was then stuck on the outside and really keen to get to the inside where the advantage lays. And into turn 2, I slightly outbrake myself and knock into the back of King, which I think gives him a slight advantage, but it definitely disadvantages me, and I get freight trained by several karts as we go through turn 3. But I do have the inside for turn 4 into the hairpin and manage to just squeeze by and then switch across to the crucial inside for the next corner and make up another position. I'm then overtaken on the inside, but because I've managed to get past King, it kind of shook out how I needed it to, and as we drop into the long right-hander, there's one more position as the driver on the left runs wide. And as the dust settles halfway through lap 1, I find myself in 4th position behind the very quick Dom Balasatis in the 113 car, and I was going to have to push very hard, making minimal mistakes to keep up with him.
I am messy, very, very messy and scrappy. Not good. We need Brianna and this guy to fight.
And sure enough, they were about to. But even with the intervention of some late race traffic,
Thank you.
I wasn't able to get onto the back of Rihanna and move up another place. So it was a 3rd position finish in Heat 2, and this time, thankfully, no penalties.
I think the pace of the top two, they were just a little bit quicker than me. I was learning massively through the race. It's always the same when I come and do these one-offs. I wish I knew at the beginning what I learned by the end. But you can definitely tell these guys who drive these karts all the time, they're just a little bit more switched on about how much sliding is good and how much sliding is bad, because there's a real sweet spot with these things. There's a real knack to knowing what the D-max slip angle is. Okay, heat number 3. I think the aim has to be top 5 in this one, starting 7th on the inside. Let's leave a nice safe gap to the kart in front again at turn 1, so there's no danger of us getting penalised. Very, very slippy clutch. Very, very cold tyres. Voyage of discovery. This kart feels cold. The tyres feel more slippery than the last one. There's a real rumble from the front. We might struggle off the corners in this one. I think once the clutch kicks in, it's not too bad. It's still a little bit damp down here. Have to leave a gap as we cross the line.
Okay, so the 3rd place had definitely helped us towards our A final goal, but from 7th position in Heat 3, we were still going to need to move forward. So I managed to get away pretty cleanly, and then the random chaos of turns 2, 3 and 4 happened, and I managed to get through relatively unscathed. There's always some leaning on people, there's always some side-to-side contact, and my kart came off the hairpin really well. And I found myself in 3rd position before the halfway point on lap 1. But spoiler alert, we were actually going to be leading this race before the end of the lap. But note that I didn't say leading it at the end of the lap, and you're about to see why. As we reach the end of the back straight on lap 1, I get a huge run on Jack Middleton in the 104 car, but unfortunately I lock up far too much, and I'm forced to go past the leader as well. But I was clearly completely out of control and was lucky to avoid them. And by the exit, I'd ended up losing places. But this battle was far from over, and we still had 7 minutes to go to decide the podium. Absolutely anyone in this top group could win this race. And it soon became clear to me that it was our old rival, Dom Balasatis from the previous race, who wanted it most. And I realised, as with the previous time he overtook me, it was in my best interest not to fight him and just to try and follow him up to the back of the next kart. And once again, it worked, because within a lap we were on the tail of Adam Barras and Dom had taken the lead. And although I still had to defend from the kart behind, I thought I might have a shot to get past Adam into the long downhill right-hander. And although that worked, my race was far from over, because I had KBR's James King right on my tail, and he absolutely was not happy with 3rd place. And so, eventually and inevitably, James was through. But third place should still have been enough to see me through to the A final. So my new mission was to try and hold on to third and not lose this place on the podium. And thankfully, with just one lap remaining, I was able to fend off the driver in fourth place and score another decent haul of points. But it could have gone so differently if I hadn't had an enormous stroke of luck on the final lap.
On the last lap, I just locked up into the bottom corner, basically nearly stopped. I nearly went around. So you know when you get as sideways as you can without actually spinning? So I basically stopped right at the point you want momentum. The poor guy behind me in fourth slammed into the back of me, sped me back up again, and he lost about 4 places.
And with a 6th place outside row start for the final, I was going to need some more of that luck if we were going to pull off a big result.
Thanks for watching so far. If you're enjoying this video, guys, give it a like and a subscribe. And if you've been racing in a Daytona Championship this year, drop a comment below and tell us how you've been doing. And in fact, if you're one of the drivers I'm racing against today, let me know. It's always really cool to know whether some of my competitors watch these videos back. Right, on to the final. Let's go.
Okay, everyone, it's final time. All the best performing drivers of the day here at the front. Lots of really rapid people. These are the best drivers that the Daytona Championships produce, and we're just here hanging on and trying not to get embarrassed. There's not a lot of tread on that tyre, that's the one thing I can see, which isn't good in the cold. Look, there's barely a wear mark left here, so I'm not expecting this is going to warm up quickly. Let's just give it a try.
And give it a try we did. I pushed hard on the outlap and the final was underway.
Okay, Rihanna moved across on me there. I was committed and she just took all my space away. Okay, this cart's got good power, but it's not got any front end. Let's see if we can move forward.
I began to notice that the cart in front of me was struggling for grip, getting sideways in several corners. So I decided I'd make a move at the very first opportunity.
Got massively loaded by the 101 car. Right, let's just go with him.
But it became clear pretty soon that I actually couldn't keep up with Jamie in the 101 car, and so my attention turned to the carts behind.
Now we're going to have to focus on holding off Rihanna. She's right on our tail. And quicker. And she was quicker than me in the earlier race as well. I cannot feel my hands. It's so cold, it locks up really easy. I cannot feel my hands or my feet. Guys, I'm sorry I'm being inaccurate here. It's because I just can't feel how hard I'm gripping the wheel. The car behind us is catching. Oh my god, they gained 7/10, it's Cuba.
Cuba Wozniak, the reigning Daytona Race of Champions champion and the driver frequently singled out as the very fastest at Daytona Milton Keynes.
Wasn't me, it was him. I got smashed. So for anyone watching this thinking, why are you fighting Cuba? Why does that matter? if one of the guys in the top 3 got a penalty, I would move up to 3rd. So I definitely wasn't going to keep with him on pace. So the only option was to fight him and to stay in front, because once he was gone, he was gone. Yeah, that crash that just took him out, that wasn't me. He got absolutely slammed into from a car behind, so I think that was quite an optimistic move from the guy behind me. Interested to watch it back, but definitely felt like that.
So when the race was eventually restarted, I was down in 9th position, with no hope of a podium, but still keen to finish as high as I possibly could.
Now we've got someone else up far behind. Oh, I've got no grip at all now. I've got no front end at all. Does not want to turn left. I have to basically stop to get the car to turn left. It's really, really hampering my mid-corner speed. That's been the problem this whole race. One more lap. Oh, no. That was a bit of a lunge, mate. So not the race we were hoping for, but the beginning was quite good fun. I actually genuinely think we were held back a bit by the kart in that one. I'm obviously not the best Daytona Milton Keynes driver. It wasn't a perfect race, but I was considerably slower, even in clear air, than I was in the previous race. Now I know it's got colder, but the race was longer. You'd think it would have warmed up by then, so we kind of spotted this in the pits before we left, and I was worried it might be a problem, and I think it's part of the reason we ended up in a bit of a fight and a bit of a melee with other karts in the middle, because I just couldn't carry any entry speed and it was just leaving me a bit open to attack. Anyway, good fun. Cuba's not going to be happy, but I'm pretty sure that wasn't my fault. And now we get to go warm up. Congratulations to the podium. Hey, we beat Seb. Come on, that was part of the target. I had a really bad race and I still beat you.
So with 2 out of our 4 aims complete, I was relatively content.
And I did everything I could to keep him behind. Good job for the top 3. Well done everyone today, and thanks Daytona, it was good fun.
So as the winners received their well-deserved prizes under an amazing fireworks display, it was time for me to reflect on the day.
So there we go, that's the Daytona Race of Champions. I think we finished 8th. Thank you so much to Chris, who filmed loads of this for me today, and to Daytona for having me. I'm sure we'll be back here again for something exciting soon. I hope you enjoyed that action. If you did enjoy that video, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one in a couple of weeks. Love you, bye.